These are 8 boat features that the industry convinces buyers they absolutely need, but in reality they're overpriced, unreliable, or downright dangerous. We're not talking about minor annoyances here. These are design decisions that affect your safety, cost you thousands in repairs, and make experienced boaters shake their heads in disbelief. Some marine surveyors refuse to recommend boats that have these features, and one of them is potentially costing owners more than the original purchase price. Stay with me because we're exposing the gap between marine marketing and marine reality. Number 1. Touchscreen everything. Walk into any boat show today and massive glass touchscreen displays are covering every dash. Manufacturers love showing off these systems because they look modern, they look high-tech, they look like something from a luxury car, and they come with a luxury car price tag to match. Marine environments are brutal on electronics. Constant vibration, salt spray, extreme temperatures, and direct sunlight are not conditions that touchscreen displays handle well, but manufacturers keep installing them anyway because they look impressive and they can charge premium prices. The reliability issues are well documented. Touch sensitivity degrades after a year or two of sun exposure, salt air corrodes connections, the screens become unresponsive in cold weather and overheat in direct sunlight, and when they fail, you're not looking at a $50 fix. Replacement costs start around $2,000 and can easily hit $5,000 or $6,000 for integrated systems. But here's what really makes this overrated. When you're actually operating a boat, physical buttons and knobs are superior in every way because you can find them by feel without taking your eyes off the water, they work with gloves on, they provide tactile feedback, and they don't require you to navigate through 3 menu screens to adjust something critical. Professional mariners and commercial operators figured this out decades ago. Go look at a commercial fishing boat or a Coast Guard vessel and you'll see physical controls, because when conditions get rough and you need to make fast adjustments, touchscreens become dangerous distractions. Yet the recreational marine industry keeps pushing these systems as premium features, marketing them as advanced technology when in reality they're taking proven, reliable control systems and replacing them with fragile, expensive alternatives that perform worse in actual marine conditions. Number 2. White or light-colored upholstery. This one drives me insane because it's such an obvious problem, but manufacturers keep doing it anyway. Walk through any boat dealership and white, cream, or light tan upholstery is everywhere. It photographs beautifully, it looks clean and luxurious in the showroom, and it'll look absolutely terrible after 3 weekends on your boat. Let's talk about what actually happens on boats. Sunscreen contains oils that stain, wet bathing suits sit on cushions, dirt and grime from the dock gets everywhere, fish blood if you're fishing, food and drinks, and mold and mildew from moisture that doesn't fully dry. Light-colored marine upholstery is a magnet for every stain imaginable, and marine vinyl doesn't clean like your couch at home because those stains set in permanently. Owners spend hours scrubbing with expensive marine cleaners trying to restore that showroom look, and it never works. Detailing professionals say light upholstery on boats is one of their biggest revenue sources because owners are constantly paying for deep cleaning and restoration treatments. Some owners give up entirely and just replace all the upholstery with darker colors after a year or two, which is a $5,000 to $10,000 expense that could have been avoided with smarter color choices from the factory. The marine industry knows this. They absolutely know that light-colored upholstery is impractical, but they keep installing it because it sells boats in showrooms, it creates that luxury yacht aesthetic that buyers respond to emotionally, and by the time you realize how impractical it is, you've already bought the boat. There are plenty of attractive darker colors and patterns that would hide stains and wear much better. Navy blues, charcoals, multi-tone patterns, these options exist, but manufacturers default to white and cream because those photos sell boats at boat shows. A perfect example of the industry prioritizing the sale over the actual ownership experience. Number 3. Integrated fuel tanks. This is the one that should genuinely be illegal, and I'm not exaggerating. Modern boat manufacturers are increasingly building fuel tanks that are permanently integrated into the hull structure, and these aren't removable tanks that can be accessed and replaced. These are tanks that are glassed in during construction and become part of the hull itself. Let me explain why this is catastrophic for owners. Fuel tanks eventually fail, and that's not a maybe, that's a certainty. Whether it's through corrosion, ethanol damage, or physical stress, every fuel tank has a finite lifespan, and with traditional removable tanks, when failure happens, you unbolt the old tank, pull it out, and install a new one. A straightforward repair that costs anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 depending on tank size. With integrated tanks, when they fail, you have 3 options. Option 1, cut a massive hole in your hull to access and replace the tank, which compromises the structural integrity of your boat and costs anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. Option 2, have a custom bladder tank fabricated and installed in whatever space you can find, which is often impossible depending on your hull design. Option 3, total the boat. Marine surveyors are seeing boats with integrated tank failures that are being declared total losses because the repair cost exceeds the value of the boat. We're talking about boats that are 15 to 20 years old with engines and systems that are perfectly fine being scrapped because replacing an integrated fuel tank is economically impossible, and I'm not making this up. The marine industry started doing this because it saves them money during construction. They can eliminate the labor and hardware costs of installing traditional tank mounts, they can use odd-shaped spaces in the hull more efficiently, and they can reduce construction time per boat. But they've transferred that cost savings into a catastrophic liability for owners down the road, and they're doing it knowing full well that these tanks will eventually fail and owners will be faced with impossible repair bills. Some manufacturers are even using aluminum tanks in integrated installations. Aluminum fuel tanks in saltwater environments are a known failure point because they corrode, they develop pinholes, they leak, but because they're cheaper than fiberglass or composite tanks, manufacturers keep using them even when they're integrated into the hull structure. This practice should genuinely require disclosure at point of sale. Buyers should be explicitly informed that their boat contains an integrated fuel tank that cannot be replaced without major structural modification, but that information is buried in technical specifications that most buyers never see. A ticking time bomb that's already starting to explode as boats from the early 2000s hit that 15 to 20 year mark where tank failures become common. Number 4, excessive cup holders. This one sounds petty until you realize what's actually happening. Modern boats are absolutely covered in cup holders, and I've seen center consoles with 20, 30, even 40 cup holders scattered around the boat. Manufacturers market this as a premium feature, and they literally advertise cup holder count in their sales materials like it's a genuine selling point. Those cup holders are taking up space that could be used for actual storage, they're taking up space where you could mount useful equipment, and they're creating clutter and limiting how you can configure your boat. And here's the kicker. Nobody needs 40 cup holders. Even if you load your boat to maximum capacity, people share cup holders. They set drinks down wherever there's space, and the vast majority of those cup holders sit empty while you're wishing you had another rod holder, or a place to mount a VHF radio, or a spot for a tool bag. This is pure marketing. Manufacturers know that big cup holder counts sound impressive in sales presentations. It's an easy feature to point out during a walkthrough. It costs them almost nothing to add more cup holders during construction, so they go overboard and cover every available surface with them. What makes this genuinely frustrating is that it's usually not reversible. Those cup holders are molded into consoles, glassed into gunnels, or permanently attached to seats, which means you can't easily remove them to reclaim that space. You're stuck with design choices that prioritize a marketing talking point over practical usability. Custom boat builders say one of their most common requests from clients is reducing the number of factory cup holders when doing refits. Owners realize after a season or two that all those cup holders are just visual clutter taking up valuable real estate. Number 5. Walk-through windshields and transom gates. These features have become increasingly popular on modern boats, especially on bow riders and deck boats. The idea sounds great in theory, and instead of climbing over the windshield frame or gunnel to access the bow, you just walk through. Marketed as a convenience feature that makes the boat more user-friendly and family-oriented. The problem is that these features create structural weak points and safety issues that manufacturers conveniently downplay. Let's start with walk-through windshields. Traditional windshield frames are continuous structural elements that add rigidity to the forward section of the boat, and they help the hull handle stress from waves and impacts, but when you cut a gap in that frame to create a walk-through, you're eliminating that structural benefit. The frame becomes weaker, the attachment points take more stress, and over time you see cracking, separation, and flex issues that don't occur with solid frames. The marine industry has tried to compensate with reinforced hinges and latches, but physics doesn't care. A frame with a gap is inherently weaker than a continuous frame, and on smaller boats especially, that lost structural integrity shows up in rough water handling and long-term durability. Transom gates have similar issues. Cutting a gap in the transom for easy water access creates a structural weak point in one of the most critical load-bearing areas of the boat, and the transom handles stress from the engine, from wave impacts, and from torque during acceleration. A solid transom distributes those forces effectively, while a transom with a gate concentrates stress at the hinge points. But here's where it gets worse. Those gates and latches fail because the marine environment is incredibly hard on mechanical components. Hinges corrode, latches stick, cables stretch, and when a transom gate fails in the open position while you're underway, you've got water flooding into your boat. When it fails in a partially latched position, it rattles and bangs and eventually damages the surrounding structure. There's also the safety aspect that doesn't get discussed enough. Walk-through features make it easier for people to access areas of the boat while underway, and that sounds convenient until you realize it also makes it easier for people, especially kids, to move around unsafely. A traditional windshield frame or solid transom creates a physical barrier that naturally limits movement, but walk-throughs remove that barrier. Professional boat operators and commercial captains largely avoid these features for exactly these reasons. They prioritize structural integrity and safety over convenience, but the recreational market has been convinced that walk-throughs are premium features worth paying extra for. Number 6. Over-complex anchor windlass systems. Anchor windlasses have been around forever, and the basic concept is simple. An electric motor turns a drum or gypsy that raises and lowers your anchor rode, and on traditional systems you've got a motor, a switch, and maybe a breaker. Simple, reliable, easy to troubleshoot. Modern boats are coming with windlass systems that look like something from a NASA control room. Wireless remotes, smartphone integration, automatic depth sensing, road counters with digital displays, variable speed controls, and soft start features and programmable presets. All of that complexity creates failure points, and windlass systems already operate in one of the harshest environments on your boat. They're mounted at the bow, where they take constant spray and wave impacts. They're exposed to salt, sun, and moisture, and the mechanical components are under tremendous load. Adding electronic complexity to an already challenging environment is asking for problems, and those problems are expensive. A traditional windlass motor might cost $200 to replace, while modern integrated control modules can cost over $1,000. Wireless remotes that stop working are $300 to replace, and good luck finding parts for discontinued systems when manufacturers update their product lines every few years. But here's what really makes these systems overrated. When you're actually anchoring, you don't need all those features. You need a windlass that goes up and down reliably when you press a button, and that's it. You don't need to program depth presets from your phone while you're standing on the bow handling rode, and you don't need variable speed control when a simple up and down works perfectly fine. Professional mariners and commercial operators use basic windlass systems for a reason. Simplicity equals reliability, and when you're anchoring in real weather conditions, you want equipment that works every time without fuss. You don't want to be troubleshooting Bluetooth connectivity or replacing corroded circuit boards. Yet the recreational marine industry keeps adding complexity because it lets them charge higher prices and it looks impressive in sales presentations. They've taken a proven, reliable system and made it worse by adding features that most owners never use and that create ongoing reliability and repair cost issues. Number 7. Teak decking. Teak decking is one of those features that seems incredibly luxurious until you actually own it. It looks beautiful, it feels great underfoot, it has that classic yacht aesthetic that buyers respond to emotionally, and manufacturers charge substantial premiums for it. What they don't tell you in the showroom is that teak decking requires constant maintenance. Without regular care, teak turns gray, develops mold, and starts to deteriorate, and bringing it back to that golden color requires sanding, cleaning, and oiling. Hours of labor every few months if you're doing it yourself, or hundreds of dollars per session if you're paying a professional. Even with maintenance, teak decking has a limited lifespan. On boats that actually get used, you're looking at 10 to 15 years before the teak starts showing serious wear, the planks get thin from repeated sanding, caulking between planks fails and needs replacement, and when the teak reaches end of life, you're facing a major decision. Replacing teak decking is expensive. Depending on boat size, you could be looking at $10,000 to $30,000 for quality teak replacement, and many owners at that point choose to remove the teak entirely and go back to fiberglass non-skid, which means they're paying thousands to eliminate a feature they originally paid thousands to have. But here's the hidden problem that's even worse. Teak decking is attached to your fiberglass deck with screws or mechanical fasteners, and every one of those fasteners is a potential leak point. Over time, with seasonal temperature changes and normal hull flex, those attachment points can work loose or develop hairline cracks. Water gets under the teak and into the core of your deck. Water in deck cores causes rot, delamination, and structural issues that are incredibly expensive to repair properly. You have to remove the teak, cut out the compromised core material, rebuild the deck structure, and then decide whether to reinstall teak or switch to something else, and that's boatyard work that can easily exceed $50,000. Marine surveyors specifically look for moisture issues under teak decking because it's such a common problem. There are boats out there with beautiful-looking teak that are hiding serious structural issues underneath. Modern synthetic teak alternatives have gotten very good. They look similar, feel comparable, require almost zero maintenance, and don't require mechanical fasteners that can compromise your deck, but manufacturers still push natural teak as a premium feature because it commands premium pricing and appeals to buyers who want that traditional yacht aesthetic. Number 8. Built-in coolers and livewells that can't be serviced. Let's wrap this up with a feature that sounds convenient but becomes a maintenance nightmare. Modern boats have increasingly complex built-in cooler and live well systems that are integrated into the boat's structure during construction, and they're not removable units. Permanent installations with plumbing, drains, and pumps that are accessed through small hatches if you're lucky. The problem is that these systems need maintenance and they eventually need repair. Drains clog, pumps fail, seals leak, hoses crack, and that's normal wear and tear on any plumbing system, but when the components are buried inside your boat's structure with limited access, simple maintenance becomes a major ordeal. Boat mechanics have had to cut access holes in decks and bulkheads just to reach failed pumps or clogged drains. What should be a 30-minute repair turns into a multi-day job involving fiberglass work and refinishing, and owners pay accordingly. The worst part is when these systems develop leaks. A leak in an integrated cooler or live well can dump water into your bilge, into storage areas, or into the hull structure itself, and by the time you notice the problem, you might have water damage that's been occurring for weeks or months. Expensive to remedy and can cause serious structural issues if water gets into core materials. Compare this to traditional portable coolers or removable live well units. When a portable cooler develops issues, you replace it, and when a removable live well needs service, you unbolt it and work on it on your garage bench. Total cost and time investment is a fraction of dealing with integrated systems. But manufacturers love integrated systems because they look cleaner. There are no visible coolers taking up deck space, everything has that built-in custom appearance, and they can charge premium prices for boats with extensive integrated features. What they're not telling buyers is that those integrated features have ongoing service requirements and eventual failure modes that are much more expensive to address than traditional removable equipment. Another example of the industry prioritizing the showroom experience and initial sale over long-term ownership practicality. So there you have it, 8 features that the marine industry pushes as premium additions, but that experienced owners know are overrated, overpriced, or genuinely problematic. The pattern here is clear. Manufacturers are making design choices that look good in showrooms and boat shows, but that create real problems for owners over time. They're adding complexity where simplicity would be better. They're using materials and construction methods that prioritize manufacturing cost over long-term durability, and they're installing features that increase sales prices but decrease practical usability. Not every modern boat is badly designed, and manufacturers aren't deliberately building bad products. There are plenty of smart innovations in the marine industry, but there's also a disconnect between what sells boats and what makes for a good long-term ownership experience. If you're shopping for a boat, pay attention to these features. Ask critical questions, talk to owners who've had their boats for several years, not just people who bought recently. Look at online owner forums and see what problems come up repeatedly, and don't let impressive showroom features distract you from practical long-term considerations. And if you already own a boat with some of these features, now you know you're not alone in dealing with these issues. These are industry-wide problems that affect thousands of owners, not just you. The marine industry needs to start prioritizing long-term ownership experience over short-term sales tactics, because happy long-term owners are the ones who buy their next boat from the same manufacturer and recommend brands to their friends. Creating expensive problems for owners might work for one sale, but it doesn't build loyalty. That's it for this one. If this video helped you avoid an expensive mistake or validated frustrations you've been dealing with, hit that like button and subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know which of these overrated features drives you the most crazy. I'll see you in the next one.